What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing my series on the weapon mounted LRFs. Today the LRF of choice is the Tango Fire 4000. So this unit is pretty cool because of the price point paired with some pretty impressive capability, and we're going to go over that. We're going to show its performance, we're going to show some shooting. We're going to do the same test that I did with the maztech, where I took the same target, my coyote target, we'll skyline it on my hill, we'll go down here and just start shooting lasers at it and see what kind of readings that we can get. But before we start this video, I want to thank the main sponsors of our channel. First, the OG sponsor, my guys over at Gallinson's Guns. Gallinson's Guns is the oldest gun store in Utah, and they have everything. Those guys are awesome. They always have crazy deals. Go check them out. Gallinson's Guns. Huge thanks to those guys. The second sponsor of the video is Mile High Shooting. They supplied this Fire 4000 to me for this video. Those guys are awesome. They've helped out with videos in the past, like my Accuracy International AXSR video, sending out the barrel and bolt for the 6.5 conversion. But yeah, those guys are awesome, but they have all sorts of high-end accessories like this Fire 4000. They also sell zero compromise optics, some of my favorite scopes. But yeah, great people. Go check them out. But yeah, now that all the sponsors are out of the way, those guys help us out a lot. We love them. But let's start talking about the Fire 4000. So getting into the details on the Fire 4000 and what makes this unit so, one, how did they pack a lot of this performance into a unit that only costs $1,500, and how capable is that unit? So coming from me, the qualities and traits of a WMLRF that make it desirable to me are obviously reliability. All these units have proven to be very durable and very reliable, but I think one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest one, is the solver, the software that it's running. And obviously, you know, I won't say all, but most guys that are in, you know, performance shooting, the sniper community, PRS, NRL, all those guys trust and swear by applied ballistics. It's kind of hard for other people to get behind a unit when it's not running that software, because those guys are just kind of the standard that everyone else is compared to. And the Fire 4000 is no different. It is running applied ballistics, and it kind of does it not really in a unique way, but they did I won't say they made compromises, but they did do a few things to make such a powerful unit affordable, and we're going to talk about those. So on top of running applied ballistics, one of the downsides, well, I won't say downsides, but a lot of people, when this unit came out and they were looking at the spec sheet, they noticed that it didn't have onboard environmentals, and for a lot of people that was a non-starter for them. They just said, oh, I want to have, you know, I obviously want my unit to be taking in, you know, atmospherics, temperature, all that stuff, so it's applying that to your solution. The Fire 4000 doesn't do that, which, like I said, a lot of people just said, oh, nope, this unit's not for me. But I think the cost savings that they made by not putting, you know, weather sensors into this are worth it because of the ways they apply its ability to, you know, take in environmentals. So there are three modes that you can run the Fire 4000 is in. One, obviously just normal, completely on its own. When you're running that, you have your your profile that's on the unit, and that is just using the environmentals that were basically used at the time the profile was made. So, you know, right now it's 70 something degrees, some kind of humidity, you know, density, altitude. It just takes all those and it's using that information that you put into the profile when it was made, and it's using that information. It's going to be pretty close regardless of, you know, if there's smaller changes in temperature, it's going to be there. You can also run it connected to your Kestrel, and there's two ways of doing that. One way is taking the entire solution from your Kestrel. All it's doing is using its laser. So it's lasing the target, giving the distance, and it's telling the distance to your kestrel, and your kestrel is feeding the solution back to your unit. So by doing that, you're getting environmentals if you have environmentals live on your kestrel. The other way of running it is it's using the onboard solver. It's using your solution that you've built and uploaded to the unit. It's using the laser, obviously, but it's only pulling environmentals from your kestrel. So that basically how I've been using it is I put it in that mode and let it read the environmentals basically for the day or the morning or whatever, and it's tracked really well for me. So it's just taking the environmentals from the day, so I'm not having to go in and update the entire rifle profile, but it's just taking the environmentals from my kestrel, applying it to the solution that's already uploaded to the unit, and going from there. And I found that to be super effective. I've had this unit for about 2 months now, and I've been very happy running it that way. And I've ran it all ways, and I think that one has been the most accurate. But in the summer months in Utah, where I'm mostly shooting, day to day, the atmospherics really aren't changing that much, even in the morning. So just running it on completely internal mode, where it's using my original environmental information, I've really seen I've had no issues running it in that sense. So that, hopefully that kind of extinguishes your worries about not having onboard environmentals, because I don't think it's a massive drawback, and I think it was well worth the cost savings that it enabled them to have in this unit. All right, so the next topic I want to cover is interface, another quality that makes certain units more attractive than others. And because it's running applied ballistics, it's already integrated into that ecosystem of softwares. So it's running applied ballistics, so that means you can connect to kestrels, you can connect to applied ballistic quantum on your phone, you can pull profiles from that, and it is a super simple setup on there. It just takes whatever profile you've built out, turn on Bluetooth, and you can upload the profile to the unit. So far, I could be wrong on this. I really should consult the manual, but I think right now you can only run one profile on the unit, and you can't go in and switch profiles. But I don't think that is a massive. Honestly, I don't think that's detrimental at all, because it's mounted, because it's zeroed. You're only going to be running one profile unless you're changing bullets. But when I change bullets, I re-zero, I re-chronograph and everything. And so while I'm doing that, I might as well just build another profile and upload it to it, because I'm not like, ooh, here's this target, I'm going to hurry and throw in this bullet instead of the other bullet I've been using and switch to a different profile. That's not how things work. So the fact that you can only run one profile at a time on here and can't switch on the unit, that's not a big deal to me. Because if I am going to switch the unit to another rifle, I'm going to re-zero the unit, obviously, and I'm going to upload the other profile to it, obviously. I really don't think that's a massive issue. Some people, I think, get worked up over, qualities that one unit has and other units don't, and that's a massive deal breaker for them. But when it actually comes down to the, in-field use of the unit, those other qualities have absolutely zero advantage to them. So I don't think that's a big issue at all. Lost my train of thought. Where were we? Okay, oh yeah, back to the kind of software ecosystem. So yeah, uploading profiles is super easy. Originally, they made it to be able to connect to the Applied Ballistics BOSS, which is an older app, and I think it's basically getting shut down because Applied Ballistics Quantum is taking over. But I would much rather run Quantum. It's been fantastic. I really like it. But yeah, uploading profiles to it is super easy, and it's been really easy to get them tracking. And oh yeah, this is where my thought was going earlier, because it doesn't have a lot of, you know, stored profiles on it and stuff. They were able to direct a lot more of the processing power to the speed of the LRF. And we'll talk about this later, but the speed on this with which it reads targets and gives you a solution is silly. It is one of the fastest, if not the fastest LRFs that I've seen. You know, the other fastest one I've been running is the maztech 15K, and they are neck and neck, and this one might just have the edge. Obviously the 15K can laze way farther. That's a significantly, you know, almost 5 times the price. But yeah, this thing is crazy fast, and we'll talk about that later. But I think that is one of the reasons why they were able to make it so fast, is because they're not using, you know, the processing power or onboard memory. You know, I'm not a computer nerd, so I might be wrong, but talking to the Tango guys, they said when they were building this unit, they wanted it to be basically like a race car. It doesn't have AC, it doesn't have traction control, doesn't have all the fancy amenities that, you know, your fancy cars have, but it was built to get the job done. It was built to laze and give you a solution as reliably and as fast as possible, and this does it. So yeah, and I'll be honest, when I was looking at the specs, I was a little, you know, I was like, oh, it doesn't have this capability or this capability, mainly environmentals and, you know, multiple profiles. But as I started using other LRFs, I was like, oh, like I don't even use that to begin with. I do like having onboard environmentals. That is nice. Like the other units that have that, it's convenient. But the capability, like, you know, being able to pull from the Kestrel and stuff like that remedies that while saves you money. So I think that compromise was well worth it, and I think it was a very smart move on their part, because they're getting a very capable LRF into your guys' hands for a fraction of the cost of most other companies. So in this video, I'm not going to go over the zeroing process because they're all relatively the same. This one is super nice because the laser, unlike, you know, the maztech and pretty much mostly all other units, the laser isn't vertically in line with the bore. You have to also take into account that little bit of lateral offset when you're zeroing, so that you have a truly parallel zero and it's not, you know, intersecting and then, you know, going off to the right downrange. Their zeroing laser is dead nuts right over the center of your bore line. So when you're zeroing that, you're making a perfectly parallel zero and you're not worried about that lateral deviation. As far as zeroing goes, like the maztech, they do send you with the means to see that laser clearly. It's not like the maztech where they have a full, like, reflective zero target. And I do appreciate the maztech guys sending a target like that, because it takes care of that lateral offset. You don't have to take that into account when you're zeroing. You only need to measure your height over the center line of your optic to zero properly. With this one, you still have to measure that, but you don't have to worry about that lateral offset. They give you these little reflective pieces. They've got some fat ones. They've got these little ones, which is I use to actually zero the laser. So I'll measure my offset and put this smaller circle where it needs to be above my aiming point. But I like to place these smaller and bigger ones around the target, because sometimes it can be hard to find your laser. Like if we're out zeroing the laser today on a bright sunny day, you're gonna have a very hard time seeing that laser showing up on cardboard, which a trick that I've been using recently to zero lasers, because I've been using and testing so many different ones, is I've been doing a bore sight or a preliminary zero in my garage at like 20 feet. I'll go and I'll measure my offset, and I'll put a piece of paper up marking that offset. I'll put my rifle on a tripod and just get that preliminary zero at 20 feet, so that when I do take it out to 100 yards, it's very close, if not dead nuts. If you're super careful, you can make a really good zero at 20 feet. I wouldn't rely on it, but it's a great way to get your laser on paper, so that you're not sitting there, you know, fishing around and hoping you catch, you know, just a glimpse of the laser on one of your little reflective stickers. So that's something I would highly recommend doing. But yeah, the zeroing process is super easy. Like I said before, they're all very similar. They have a vertical and lateral adjustment, just like all the other ones. You use a flathead or an Allen wrench, and you move the visible laser to where it needs to be. One thing that's not as nice on this, I mean, not a deal breaker, but it doesn't have, tactile clicks in the turret like the maztech did. That was nice. It gives you a little bit of feedback to know how much you've moved it. This one, you just turn. It doesn't click. So that's not a big deal for me, but it is nice in the maztech. What else? With this one thing that is nice that you do need to be aware of as well is this top button on the little D-pad is your visible laser button. You just click it and turn it on, click it and turn it off. So that can get bumped. If you're bumping around and if you put your rifle in your front seat or your back seat, just be aware that that button can get bumped and turn on your visible laser, and it could drain your battery. So be aware of that. Not a big deal, but not ideal. Some of the other ones you have to switch to visible laser mode, which is really hard to accidentally do. One other thing that isn't bad because there's aftermarket solutions is it doesn't come with an objective or lens or aperture cover or whatever you want to call it. So this one is from Professionally Unprofessional. They're on Instagram. These are a super affordable option. They're awesome. Comes with the shot cord and everything, and they're perfect. They also have one that is an ARD, so it has that honeycomb in there. If you're one of those guys that's worried about reflection and signature reduction, you can get that. I'm not really worried about that right now, but it is nice because you just pull it up and slip it down. Very sturdy, protects the glass in there, so that's nice. Again, not a big deal, but the other ones that come with it, that is a nice plus. So in these videos in the future, I'm going to start actually mentioning the support gear that I'm using just to save me and you some time in the comments. I get a lot of questions on the support gear that I'm using, like bags, tripods, stuff like that. So I'm going to talk about the bag that I've been using as of late. This is a new bag from my friends over at Everly Stock. It's called the Romad. Now, originally it was developed for JTACs, guys with antennas shooting out of their backpacks all over the place. Ow. But yeah, they've got tons of radios, all sorts of super important equipment to be able to, call in medevacs, call in ordnance, stuff like that. So it was built around that, but I've found it to be very useful as my smaller, just go-to range bag. Normally I'm using an Everly Stock, gosh, the name just left me. It's the one with the hard back on the bottom. Upranger. So I use an Everly Stock Upranger. I have had this one for 5 years now, and it has been awesome. It's been absolutely beat to hell, but it's a fantastic backpack. But it's just big. So this one is my go-to. I brought my camera equipment in it. I've got my tools up front. This pouch is perfect to hold my bigger long-range fix-it sticks kit. Holds that perfectly. It's got MOLLE all over. I'm not worried about looking like a fancy tactical cool guy with this one just because, it's MOLLE all over. I'm not trying to lay low when I'm carrying my range stuff around. Anyway, it's got another top pocket. I keep some extra glass in there. But yeah, it's been a great pack. I've been running it up until now, and as of this video release, this backpack will have just been released. I've had it for about a month now, and it's been awesome. I really like it. It's the perfect size. I'll wear this with, my Bino chest rig that basically has everything I need for a light range day, or if I want to, go and set a target up, leave my truck, and then hike to another firing position. I take this and my chest rig, and we're good to go. I've got everything that I need. So hit up Everly Stock. Definitely check the Romad out. It's a great option. Even if you're not a JTAC, it's a really cool backpack. It's got a lot of capability, some modularity to it, so you can cater it to whatever your mission is. If it's just a weekend out shooting, or I think it would actually make a good day pack, honestly. if you're not worried about looking tactical. So yeah, hit up Every Stock. Those guys are awesome. They've started supporting the channel. They've supported me for a very long time. They're great people. Be sure to check Every Stock out, guys. All right, so now we're gonna do some shooting with it. I've got a few targets out here. I'll set up the spotting scope. It's kind of windy, so the spotting scope footage gets bounced around a lot. But I've had this unit, the Fire 4000, on this specific gun for, well, since I've had it, because this is the gun that I shoot the most. This is my 223 Trainer. It was built by my friends over at Straight Jacket Armory. It's silly accurate. I have a ton of ammo for it because, you know, the guys at Bone Frog support the channel. Those guys, dang it. We'll talk about them right now. Bone Frog is also the official ammo sponsor of the channel. This is what we are shooting right now. It is the 77 grain OTMs. They are fantastic. I have put probably 1,500 rounds on this rifle alone of Bone Frog through it, and it's been fantastic. They're silly accurate. We're going to be doing a full video with a whole new rifle build with them soon, so stick around for that. But yeah, let's turn it on. Hold on the switch, and we're ready to go. So let's see. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to get on my, we've got a target out here at, let's laze it, 2.7, 540 yards. Now we've got some pretty gnarly wind. So now it's on, so now watch how fast this is. Where's my target? There it is. That's crazy. Every time I play with this, it's just instant. All right, so it's telling me, let me laze it one time. Okay, let's see how good my wind call is right now. Man, did it really pick up that much down there? It is. 223s and wind are gnarly. There we go. One more. Gosh, this tailwind is killing me. Anyway, so don't mind my shooting in this rough wind. Let's just talk about the LRF. Okay, so now forgive the exposure on this shot. I have to turn my shutter speed weird so it shows the full screen instead of like that rolling shutter effect. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try and find some rocks that are a little farther away and just see what kind of readings we get. Okay, so there's 2,200 yards like that. I'll do a few of those just to show how fast it is. So that's not bad at all. So there's some farther ones. I'm gonna try not to get in the way of the camera. Make sure that's still in frame. Okay, let's see if we can get a read on those. Nope. Those might be a little too far. But I like to try. So every once in a while you'll catch a reading. Let's try some a little bit closer ones. Try some bushes. Not seeing anything right there. Let's try those. All right, so it's probably out of its range around, at least on those rocks. Whoops, sorry. I messed up the... There we go, back in focus. So I'm gonna guess and say those, let's hit them with a bigger LRF just to see what that distance actually is. We'll use the Vectronics real quick. So those are 3,600 yards, those rocks I was just trying to hit. So that's probably right at its limit as far as like a non-reflective target goes, a rock or a bush. So let's try some more challenging targets, like let's try a smaller bush. I'm gonna move this over a little bit so I don't keep bumping it. Okay, so I'm gonna try smaller bush down here. So those are still past 2,200 yards, which is probably why I'm not getting a good read on it. So let's go back to closer to 2,200. Okay, there's 2,260 on a bush. So, okay, so I'm thinking bushes, vegetation-wise, 2,200 is about its limit. Now I've gotten farther. I think I've hit like 2,600 on like the ideal target. I think it was a rock that had a very flat face that was looking right at us. So that's not horrible. For a unit that costs 1,500 bucks, you know, you're getting that kind of speed. Like that's a mile. So we're hitting, there's 14, let's go down a little bit. So 1450, 1427, 1436. Like that's just crazy speed. For 1,500 bucks, you get applied ballistics and that kind of speed. Now this unit would be fantastic for matches. You know, you want to get into a sniper match, everybody's running Marses and Storms and maztech 15Ks. You can get into that same kind of capability, obviously a little bit less, but you get the LRF capability for 1,500 bucks. Like that's an insane fraction of the price. Let's try and hit just a few more. I'm trying to see if there's any other super reflective targets that we could snag, that we could laze off of. All right, so you guys get the speed. You understand that? It's kind of hard to get that screen to show up well on the camera, so I'm just gonna stand out here and just see what I can hit. Now, I don't have any actual targets out there. We're lasing, you know, junipers, sagebrush, rock faces, just normal stuff that you would, you know, be able to laze if, you know, if you've got an animal out there, you might not get a good read, but there's a rock right next to it. That's the kind of situation we're in right now. So I'm just gonna see what kind of readings we can get. I really want to see if we can get it past 200 or 2,200 yards, which I've done before, but like I said, it was on the ideal target. Let's see if we can hit telephone poles. I think those are quite a bit farther than 2,200. Let's see. Yep, there's 2,200 again. So yeah, I think the super reliable feedback you're gonna be getting is inside of 2,200 yards, which is awesome. Like, when are you ever gonna shoot over 2,200 yards? At a match, obviously. I mean, if you take this to an ELR match, not the ideal ELR match unit, you could definitely use it because you'll have reflective targets out there, but it might not be ideal. But, you know, just to get into this capability, I'm gonna say that right now, like this is probably the best value for your money versus performance weapon mounted LRF on the market right now. For 1,500 bucks, that's, you know, from my experience running it for the past month, this has helped me kill probably 300 to 400 prairie dogs. This gun was eaten down in central Utah with this unit. It was just laze, hold, whack, laze, hold, whack, and you know, they were inside of 600 yards, so it was just instant. Like I was the Grim Reaper out there with this setup. So stuff like that is awesome. But yeah, let's do our quick little, we'll set up my coyote target again and just see if it can hit that there was a few, we struggled a little bit with the maztech just based on like the beam divergence, and given that it's more of a terrain laser. And that is an interesting thing. I'm planning a video doing night vision where you'll see how this is my autism and ADHD coming in. So last night I was shooting at night with my PVS 27 and the maztech 2K, and a very interesting thing, you can see the laser that it's sending out to read the distance, and it's not like a focused beam like you would think. It is a flat line that it was kind of surprising. It was super cool. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's more of a terrain laser instead of a, you know, a very focused super beam. So we'll test that at night vision as well later on. But yeah, we'll see if this can pick up the target where the maztech struggled. It's not a diss on maztech. It's still a very capable unit, but if this can hit it for 1,500 bucks, that's pretty sick. So let's set that up real quick. All right, so this is the target setup. I didn't show it before, last times I forgot, but it is a like half-size coyote, so there's my hand on there for comparison. But it is skylined up on our little rocky knoll. But we'll go down at about 750 yards and just see if we can get a good reading. Last time the maztech 2K struggled a little bit on it. It's a challenging target, it's very small. You need a good accurate zero on your laser and good beam divergence to be able to reliably hit this with an LRF. So let's go test that out real quick. All right, so we're down the same spot where we tested the maztech, and we're just gonna see if we can get a read on that coyote. There you go, 763. So I'm just gonna make sure, confirm that, you know, my zero isn't off, like it was hitting the ground instead. I'm gonna laze all around it. Okay, so I think the beam on this one is more circular than flat, because I'm able to get a reading basically if I hold a foot off the coyote's nose on the base, above, and around. So that beam divergence is going out, but I am getting very reliable readings. So every time I hit that, yeah, it's hitting it every time. So that's impressive. Where the maztech's 2K struggled a little bit. Now I'll add this as a disclaimer. I talked to the engineers at maztech and they said they are working on that issue. They're doing some optimization in the software to make it be able to read targets better at those distances. They're asking me the exact dimensions of my targets, so that's really cool. They're taking customer feedback, and I know these guys will as well. So far, you know, I've only done videos on the maztech X4 LRF and the Fire 4000, but so far both companies have been more than generous with me, with both, you know, wanting to set up videos and stuff, but also just talking to me, taking feedback, giving pointers, you know, talking about the software, why they did things, why they didn't do things. So both companies have been awesome, and that's super cool to hear. You know, you don't hear about that nowadays. Like usually when you come to someone and you say, hey, your product was really struggling in this aspect, like, no, it wasn't, it was you. maztech was like, okay, I need dimensions of the target, I need distances, you know, conditions, we want to remedy this immediately. So that's awesome. And I know the guys over at Tango, the Fire 4000, they would do the exact same thing if there were any issues. Huge plus, you have good people backing their product. That's awesome. But yeah, that makes me happy that this unit isn't struggling with that target. So that's really cool. But yeah, it's like we talked about up there, just a skyline, smaller target. I bet it wouldn't struggle with a even smaller target with how easy that's getting a reading on. It's every time instant. Let's hit it a few more times just for fun. Now I'm just checking, I'm hitting the target and then I'm hitting the rocks in front of it, and I'm hitting the rock directly below it because it's standing on a rock, it's perched, and then the rock directly below it is a little bit in front of it. So it's giving me different distances, so I know that my laser is zeroed correctly, and it's giving me, let's see what it was for the target. So 761 is the target. Now when I laze the rock directly below it, I'm getting 758. So that means my zero isn't off. The beam divergence isn't so big that it's picking up that first higher, easier target and giving me a read on that rather than the lighter reflection off the target. So I know my zero isn't off. I know the beam divergence isn't picking up the rock and giving me a reading on that instead. I'm just ensuring that I'm hitting the right target and I'm getting an accurate reading. So again, I can say this so many times, but this is a fantastic unit, extremely capable for $1,500. I'm super excited to see where these guys go in the future. I have been talking to them on the future, and there's a lot more things to come. With their permission, I've asked if I could. Okay. They did say that they're going to make a unit that will be competing with the maztech. It'll be more expensive. It'll have a more powerful laser. It will also have an IR aiming laser. So that's really cool. They are, answering questions and, giving the people what they want, so to speak. So that's really cool. Huge fan of the huge fan of the Tango 4000. So let's go grab my coyote target and we'll wrap this video up. All right, guys, let's talk about my final thoughts on the Tango Fire 4000. So to start off, price. I think price is fantastic. I don't know if I should say this, but talking to one of the guys over at Tango, they said they definitely should have priced it higher. So they had you, the customer, in mind when they were building this. They wanted to give you capability at a very affordable price, and they did that. Like, I think they could easily sell this unit for $2,000, but they don't. They sell it for $1,500, and that is awesome. Just compared to the other units, capability-wise, performance-wise, it can definitely hang with them. Drawbacks, which some are they can be seen as drawbacks, but for me, they're not deal breakers. They wouldn't stop me from buying one. The main one is no onboard environmentals, which that's not an issue. They remedied it. They gave you the ability to pull live environmentals, but also saved you that money that it would take to pack, environmental sensors into this unit. Like we talked about before, it can pull directly from the Kestrel, either both the solution and environmentals, or just the environmentals to apply to the solution that it has in its onboard solver. So that's super cool. I'm gonna make sure my sling isn't vibrating my camera all over the place. There. So yeah, environmentals, not built in, not a big deal in my opinion. And based on the performance that it's had, both running it in both modes, just based on the environmentals that it had when you built the profile and pulling live environmentals from the Kestrel, performance-wise, definitely not a drawback. I think it's been fantastic. Speed, we showed how fast it is. It's extremely fast, like probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest LRFs out there right now. It's awesome. That, like we talked about in the first video that we did, speed is very important because when you're on a tripod like this and you're trying to hit a target like this, if you're holding your crosshairs on here and you have that wobble zone because you're on a tripod or on a barricade or something, you might hit the trigger, laze, and come off, and as it's coming around, you know, you'll throw the beam off, or you'll throw it, and if you have terrain behind it, you could get a bad reading and therefore a bad solution. So you want to have that assurance that when you hit that fire button, when you're on the target, that it's instantly sending that laser and giving you an accurate range and therefore an accurate solution. So speed, this has all the speed. It's awesome. I'm very happy with it. Like I said earlier, I was shooting prairie dogs with it, and no one could escape me just because it was so fast. I'd zap, hold, and smoke it. So that was awesome. What else? Oh, one drawback that, you know, I talked about with the maztech as well is it has a straight connector for the switch, which isn't ideal. It gets in the way. You can kink your not your hose. You can kink your cable, but like the maztech, these guys are also working on a 90-degree connector. So that is awesome, man. I'm regretting having a mullet today in this wind. Yeah, so they're working on that, so that'll be really nice. Doesn't come with a, you know, objective cover, but luckily there's some cool people out there, by like Professionally Unprofessional. They have made some very affordable and very effective solution for that. So no big deal there either. Visible laser, it can be easily bumped. So keep an eye on that. Again, not a drawback, but it's just something to keep an eye out for. What else? Battery life has been fantastic. You know, when I was down shooting prairie dogs, I didn't have to change the battery, and that was a lot of, you know, firings of the laser. I used a lot. I was constantly, you know, lasing different targets, lasing prairie dogs. They would move, I'd laze them again, they'd move, I'd laze them again, and it had no problem not running out of battery. In fact, I haven't changed the battery since then, and it's still going strong. It does take CR123s in the side, so not bad there. Footprint wise, it's relatively small. I would say it's a little bit smaller than the Vortex Impact 4000. A little bit shorter. It does sit on the rail nicely. There's a couple of units that I definitely think they missed the mark on their mount, because it has a relatively compact, you know, unit size, but they made their mount so small that it, you know, just stands up. This has a very good, you know, footprint, I should say. I'm running one of the smaller spur diving boards, so it's not like the Raptor height that's about, you know, that tall. So this, on this little Zico on a spur mount, that's a pretty compact package, so that's really cool. What else? I guess overall, like, if I'm being honest, if someone wants to get into a weapon-mounted LRF on a budget, this is going to be the one that I'm going to recommend every time. Obviously, there's some capability drawbacks. Like if you need an aiming laser, then you're going to have to go up to the maztech 2K, the X4 LRF 2K. And then after that, there's a really big price jump. You get up to the 15K, that's $5,300, and then you're getting up into like the Mars LC, which is around $6,600, and it just goes up from there. So I'll be very interested to see the price point of the Tango's unit that has an IR aiming laser when they release their basically more powerful unit. I bet it'll still be pretty affordable. Those guys are very good at putting capability in your hands at a great price. But yeah, when you're wanting to buy one of these, when you're looking to build out a rifle, I would just write out the list of capabilities that you can't live without. And basically, if you just want a laser that's fast and effective, the Fire 4000 is it. If you don't need any of the IR aiming, if you don't need any of, if you don't need onboard environmentals, if you don't need to toggle through a bunch of profiles constantly, then this one is it. And, there's a lot of really high-level dudes that are running this unit because it's so affordable and fast. They don't need all those other things. It's like a race car. That's exactly what the Fire 4000 guys told me. They built a race car. Doesn't have AC, doesn't have traction control. It just gets the job done exactly how you need it. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan. So, wrapping it up, I would highly recommend one. I've been a huge fan. They do software updates. They take care of you. Another good company. I know I don't want to sound like a shill, or I'm not saying anything bad about things, but this is one of those units. It's good. It's a good unit. You don't have to worry about really all the other stuff. This is the one. So guys, let me know what you thought of this review. It's a pretty cut and dry, super good unit. If I missed the mark on anything, let me know. I want to keep, streamlining and making my reviews more effective for you guys. I want to be able to give you this information so that you guys are spending your money wisely to get the capabilities that you need in the precision rifle world. So again, big thanks to Mile High for sending this unit out. Those guys are awesome. Check them out. If you haven't ran a weapon mounted LRF on a precision rifle, it's cool. There's tons of capability and stuff, but it's fun. Like, it's really cool. Once you get your profile tracking, it's a cheat code. It's a little cheat code. So when you get one of these, it's fun. So if you want to try one, this is the one to do it on. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Gallinsons, Bone Frog, Luminary Guard, Everly Stock, Mile High for sending this unit out. But guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.